7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Conversation Cabin podcast. I'm your daring host, Farrah. And tonight, of course, we are doing our collab. The Paranormal Project Presents Tues Top Terror. The Virginia City Chronicles, Episode 3, The Infamous Washoe Club. How are you doing out there tonight, y'all? I'm so glad that you joined us. I see Vicky and Courtney are here. We're just waiting on Amanda, but of course, she told us to go along. She'll be silently coming in. But yes, so tonight, like I said, want to get into the third episode of the Virginia City Chronicles. We're going to explore the captivating history and bone-chilling hauntings of the Washoe Club. Now, the Washoe has been called one of the most haunted locations in the United States, and tonight we're going to uncover some secrets. So I hope you're ready. But Vicky, Courtney, you want to say hi to everyone?
Hello, sorry, I was having trouble getting my mic off.
How are you doing? I miss you, girl. You've been gone for so long.
I feel like I was telling you earlier over Instagram that it just seems like my entire summer is gone and it's only the first week of June, but I'm here, I'm excited, and I missed y'all last week.
Hey, we're excited that you're here. I'm so glad to even just hear your voice. It's like a calming effect for me.
I can't say the same for you guys. I mean, you guys are just shining lights in my life, and I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, thank you. And now I feel the same way, especially for you two, Vicky, Amanda, of course, too. Meeting all you girls, you know, when we were all starting out at the same time, it just seems like this was meant to be. This friendship was meant to be. That's how I look at it, at least. Because things happen for a reason. So, but how are you, Vicky?
Hi, Farrah. How are you? And I totally agree with everything you just said. Like, even though none of us live together and we don't see each other at a physical level, just doing everything online, the way we're able to collab so greatly and get along and have so many interesting, common interests. I think it's like you said, it's meant to be. Like, everything has a time and place, and everyone comes together when should. And excuse me, I'm also very grateful to have met you girls online. Like, this is actually pretty exciting for me. Like, I was pumped up for this, for today. I was like, yes, it's gonna be fun, it's gonna be cool, we're gonna engage, and can't wait to hear the rest of the Virginia City.
Heck yeah.
Awesome.
All day today. It was I just want to get done with work so that I can go and do this live stream because I feel like I've missed so much of it just in 1 week. So let's get to it.
Yeah, but we're glad that you're doing what you have to do, though, too. You know, like you said, you know, you got to be with family. You got to do your due diligence and go where you need to go. So we understand. We're glad you are here with us tonight. Like I said, everyone, Amanda will be joining us shortly, but let's get in to the Washoe Club. So I know that I went through a little bit last episode about Virginia City. So if you all remember, Virginia City, Nevada is a historic mining town that was founded in the mid 1800s during the peak of the silver rush in the American West, in which I just really do have a fascination with the old West, like the ghost towns, but more of just that period time. You know, the stage coaches and the horses, and you know, look what ladies had to wear back then. You know, if they showed their ankle or, you know, their legs, that was not right. And then you look at today, how much things have changed. But I always have a fascination with back in the day, whether it's the 1800s. You know, if I could pick a time, I don't know about you girls, but if I could pick a time to go back and live, it would be in the roaring 20s or the 60s. What would you guys all say?
I feel like this is going to be kind of a controversial answer because obviously that time period wasn't very kind to women, and also like I'm into spooky stuff. I would assume that I'm gonna be into spooky stuff no matter what age, but I always have a fascination for obvious reasons with the like 1600s in like Europe and even in like the colonies and in America and stuff like that. I just find that time period to be really fascinating. So like the end of the Dark Ages, even though they were not very kind to people who like spooky stuff, but it's cool.
No, I like it too. I mean, if I don't know if you had seen Courtney, but I'm going to be doing a story of the Tower of London, but also emphasizing on Anne Boleyn, and I just love that Shakespearean time period back then, where like 1100s, 1200s, when things were really getting the start. People were finding themselves humans as a civilization, even though it was very medieval
Right.
in those times. Still, it would still be cool to like be a fly on the wall back then, just to be in that part of
Seriously.
history.
I did a
What about?
tour in was it Tower of London, and they went into a lot of like the spiritual side of things. Not necessarily with Anne Boleyn, but just like the Tower of London is just incredibly haunted. And I don't know, maybe that's like one of the reasons why it piqued my interest because I went at such a young age. But yeah, I just that time period is crazy.
Oh, lucky you! You actually got to go to the Tower of London.
Yeah, yeah, we went for like a family vacation, and when my family goes on vacation, we don't really like to you know, create a bunch of time schedules for us. We just kind of like to see what happens. But my mom really wanted to go there, so we booked a tour. And it was super interesting. We also did one while we were there. It was called Haunted London Tour because my dad and I obviously love ghosts, but it was the Jack the Ripper experience. And instead of talking about ghosts, they talked about like his like murders and stuff, and we went to each location. And my dad was so upset because he's like, I don't care about true crime, but I was like, this is awesome.
Oh my god! Well, that would be me too. No,
Yeah.
I'm totally more into that than hearing. I mean, not saying the history is not, fun to listen to, but I'm more like what happened here as far as who got their heads cut off here, what kind of, tools did they use back then? Like I'm more into like the bloody, gory, because those ages back then were bloody and gory. They were fighting over their lands. They had knights. I mean, it was just so cool. But Vicky, what would you say to that question?
For me, um, I really, really am attracted to ancient history. Like, if I were to choose something almost closer to modern times, it would be like 1700s. But aside from that, like, I really like the Egyptian, the Greek eras. Like, I don't know, there's something about I'm not gonna say nostalgic because that wouldn't even be the word for it. But there's something about it that's for me it's inviting. I like the colors. I like oh I'm sorry for that alarm. I like the colors, I like the sceneries, but then again I just see all this through picture. It's not something I'm able to experience in real life, but for me I'm just really attracted to that early ancient societies. I mean I can't really explain myself well enough, but
No, I get
I
it.
think
I
it's
get
just
it.
because
That is a
it's
fascinating time back then.
yeah, like I think it's just because it does away with what we have right now. We have the complications with technology, the money. I mean, obviously money has always been like a problem, like pretty much all of freaking human civilization, but like I think it's just it's more like it was a closer connection to earth. It was a closer connection to like the traditions, the cultural beliefs, the religion, the stories, the legends, the everything is just for me ancient history. Anything relating to ancient history, more towards like Egypt, ancient Egypt. I would, if I had a time traveling machine, I would probably go there and just probably stay lost there forever and never come back to this part of our timeline.
No, I don't blame you. And that's why I asked this question, because Virginia City to me is a staple of the American West because people, just like you said, Courtney, it was rough times back then, not only for women, of course, a really rough time, but, the men, the miners. And for a city back in the 1800s to be built like Virginia City, which then ended up booming into a bustling metropolis with thousands of miners and prospectors flocking to the area in search of fortune and opportunity. That meant a lot for really grounding the United States and back there in the West where there wasn't many people because it was a hard terrain to live, a hard, desert heat, not a lot of rain, can't really grow a lot of crops. So that's, why I brought that question up because I feel that Virginia City is one of those cities in the United States that is keeping that time alive by the Washoe, the Gold Hill, the Silver Queen, the Mackey, um, the Mitzpah Hotel, all of them. It's so awesome that they have kept these buildings. Yes, they've done a little bit of updating to them, of course they have
That's
to.
like a
My
safety
goodness, they're
measure, you know?
very old. So, yeah, definitely. Oh, Amanda joined us. Hello, Amanda.
Hi there, I'm struggling with my mute button.
Oh, no worries. Hey, we just started and I was just starting into my story, but I have a couple questions through my story. And just as I was getting started, one of my questions to Courtney and Vicky was if you could go back into a time period, what time period would you jump into and why?
Ooh, that's a really good one. And this is gonna probably sound really dark, but just for the purposes of wanting
We've
to.
already talked we've already talked dark.
Oh,
Trust
good.
me.
Okay, then I won't stand out. I would probably want to go back to either the Depression or during like one of the world wars, only because I feel like what the general vibe of society would have felt like at that time, like that, seems really dreadful and awful. But I think experiencing that would definitely give me a different perspective on how far we've.
That's a great answer. And actually Vicky had picked like an Egyptian, more like an ancient time, when people were more one with the earth
That's a
and
good one.
you know, which I definitely agree with her on that. And Courtney had said that Courtney, I'm sorry, I forgot what you said. Go ahead. What
It
would you
was
say
like
again?
the 1600s-ish, like
Yeah,
just
yeah.
past the medieval era, almost like maybe the Renaissance, but like kind of towards the tail end of that as well.
And I was bringing that up, Amanda, because, of course, I wanted to start just a little bit about Virginia City at first and how much it has become a staple, not just back then when it was built, but how they have kept a lot of the buildings alive, to keep that time period and not forget that this country was built on the backs of working men and women that had nothing. They didn't have running water. They had to go fetch it. The times were tough. And I think that the way that these people in the town have kept these buildings alive is just phenomenal.
I would definitely agree. I'm right there with you. It's sometimes just driving past these old buildings brings you such emotions, and you just wonder what they've seen.
Exactly. But one of the most iconic landmarks in Virginia City, of course, the Washoe Club, among many others, as we have seen in these past other two episodes. But the Washoe is a historic building that has stood in the heart of the town for over a century. The Washoe was built in 1862 by a group of local businessmen who recognized the need for a social gathering place for the wealthy and influential residents of Virginia City. The founders were a group of 6 men who pooled their resources to construct the building. These men were John Mackey, James Fair, James Flood, William O'Brien, William Sharon, and George Hurst. Their group was called, quote, the Bonanza Kings. I'll stop right here for a second because I want to ask Courtney a question. Courtney, I know that you're coming up next Tuesday for your episode on the Mackey Mansion.
Mhm.
And I'm sure you know that John Mackey, of course, not only was responsible for the Mackey Mansion, but I'm sure in your research, you found that these guys really did a lot for Virginia City building it up.
Yeah. So I was going to touch on this next week, and I will in more detail, but they invested in the silver mine that was underneath the town. So their work and their investments in the mine itself contributed to the town and what it is today, even like nearly a century later or over a century later. So their contributions are why Virginia City exists.
Exactly. And just as you say that, all 6 men were prominent figures in the mining industry and were known for their wealth and influence throughout the region. They had created a smaller mining claim under the name of the Consolidated Virginia Mining Company. And in 1873, the company made the greatest ore body discovery ever found in North America, known as, quote, the Big Bonanza. So you are very right, Courtney. These 6 gentlemen really took their wealth to a good level, not like a lot of wealthy people do today, which is really nothing. But back in the day, they were responsible for building these buildings, these hotels, not just for the rich and influential, but I mean for everybody in the town to come there and have a good time and associate. It was so Virginia City, really, again, as I mentioned earlier, is a staple, but these guys were responsible for it, and we should never forget their names. And of course, John Mackey is the name of your owner for your Mackey Mansion that you'll be doing next Tuesday. But I just thought that that was quite neat that really all the same 6 guys, sometimes another building would be only 4 of them. But for the most part, all 6 guys had gone in together on a lot of the buildings there.
Right. It was kind of like
So
a
now,
contribution of their resources to build these really beautiful buildings that are still here today. So I don't even know, it was like almost like a fraternity, but one that wasn't sketchy, if that makes sense.
no, yeah, that's a good way to put it. No, that's a very good way to put it. And these guys were, like I said, you look at the wealthy today, the wealthy only donates charity because they get a tax write-off for it. Let's be honest. So, but these guys back in the day, they really wanted to build a town that brought people near and far to try to start a new life. Now, moving on, this the Washoe Club was designed as a luxurious social club with ornate furnishings, elegant decor, and a wide range of amenities that were designed to attract the wealthiest and most influential residents of Virginia City. The club featured a large ballroom, a bar, a billiards room, and a gaming room, as well as a number of private rooms and suites for members and their guests. I'm sure we all know that a gaming room means poker tables. Poker was very famous back in the Western times. Of course, many people got murdered over those games. But that's what the gaming room mean if you didn't know. Now, this grand club quickly became a popular destination for Virginia City's elite, and it played an important role in the social and cultural life of the town. It hosted a wide range of events, including formal balls, concerts, and theatrical performances, and it was a favorite gathering place for, again, the town's most influential residents. Now, in addition to its role as a social club, it also played an important role in the history of Virginia City and the surrounding region. During the early years of the club's existence, the 6 founders used it as a base of operations for their mining interests, and they frequently met there to discuss business and make important decisions about the future of their mining adventures. But with all that history comes a fair share of tragedy, and the Washoe is no exception. The decline of the Comstock also spelled the downfall of the Washoe Club. With dwindling membership renewals, the club saw a steady decline until it ultimately met its demise in 1897. Now, let me just take a step back or a side step for a second on the demise of the Comstock. So, at its peak, the Comstock was selling shares of like $2.25, somewhere around those lines. But it had dropped almost to 50 cents a share. So you want to talk about a big boom and then a big pummel, and it happened quickly. So think about it. If you got all that money, okay, you're not John Mackey. You're just someone that bought some shares. But back in that time, if you get a lot of money, you're going to spend it quick. You're going to spend it quick because you're going to get your house, you're going to get all your things that you want. But then that decline was so rapid, down to 50 cents a share. Many people were left with nothing. Nothing. House gone, animals sold. It was a really bad time when that happened, when the Comstock dropped. Now, let's see, where was I? Oh, yes. The Territorial Enterprise, a famed local newspaper, noted that, quote, the closing of the Washoe Club marks an era in the history of Nevada, as did its opening, end quote. So as you can see, the people there loved their town. So when it was starting to close some of its buildings, not getting a lot of customers, this was detrimental to the town and its residents. While the upper floors of the club remained empty for decades, the saloon on the ground level continued to operate even after the club's closure. Over time, the extravagant furnishings and decor were stripped away, especially after a failed renovation attempt in the 1980s. Despite being unused for over a century, the spirits that haunt the Washoe Club remain as active as ever. One of the most infamous deaths associated with the Washoe Club occurred in 1895. You may know about this, Courtney, when John Mackey lost his son in a tragic horse riding accident. Legend have it that John Mackey went into a deep depression after the death of his son, John Mackey Jr., and spent many a long nights drinking and gambling at the club. Some say that his ghost still haunts the club to this day. Did you ever come across anything like that in your research?
I came across that he had children and that he had a son as well as a niece. And I believe it was the niece who passed away in the Mackey Mansion. And I want to say that they mentioned briefly that his son had an accident, but I couldn't figure out like where he was. So that's interesting. I need to look more into that.
It's not saying that John Mackey like died in the Washoe. Like I said, it's just an association with it that, the Washoe was one of John Mackey Sr.'s, what his pride and joy. So
Right.
the fact that his, kid was also around Virginia City. But like I said, when John Mackey ended up passing on himself, that's his baby. So,
Right.
along with the Mackey Mansion, of course, that he, resident ghost there as well. But yeah, I was very shocked to know that his son had died from that horse riding accident. I didn't even know, when I first started researching, I didn't even know that he had kids because his one marriage, she had children
Right.
from someone else. But
I will say that I saw a lot of conflicting information when it came to his children and just his family in general. So I wouldn't be surprised if like that were the case. It's just so hard for obvious reasons with documentation back in those days. It's hard to find the like 100% like this is actually like what happened. But in my mind, that makes the most sense because I know for a fact that none of his kids died in the Mackey Mansion. None of like his children died in his house. And I want to say too that like we spoke about this during the first episode of the series. The spirits in this town seem to like move about the entire city. They don't stay in one place. They may haunt more frequently at these locations, but like they kind of roam. So I'm sure that he is there and he's very active.
And I think that's what we have all come to, I think, agree on, Amanda and Vicky as well. I think we can all agree on that, you know, when Amanda and Vicky found out that they had the same ghost, Rosie, that was, well, at first it wasn't the same ghost, but they had a ghost that was named Rosie at each of their respective places, the Gold Hill and the Silver Queen. But, you know, that town was small. Remember what a ghost town was, or remember what a town was back then. It was one strip usually back then. And, you know, I know the Gold Hill was kind of set apart a little bit back in the original plans, you know, from where the strip was. So that's how that was. So you can see that Rosie, as well as John Mackey and everybody else that lived in that town, they went from bar to bar, saloon to saloon. That's why Mackey and the other 5 of them all came together and was building those buildings, and that they're well known in Virginia City because they're all close together. But wouldn't you, Vicky and Vicky and Amanda, agree that Rosie is most likely the same Rosie in each of your places?
I 100% would agree, only because the second Vicky said her occupation as, you know, lack of better term, a sex worker, the odds of the same name is one thing. The odds of a same name and the same occupation, that one seems a little less.
Right.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. Like, is what Courtney, who was it? I think it was Courtney, had said the last time about, like, you know, a ghost can actually be more than 2 places at once. And I didn't.
No, you're right. Exactly. And I think, like I said, as much as I'm imagining it in my mind, when it was built, they had the one strip. It's not like today where, you know, it's block after block after block after block in a city. You know what I mean? And one person at one block will never meet someone that lives 10 blocks away, most likely. Sometimes there's a coincidence, but you know, so I think that everybody in that town, they all knew each other's name. You know that for sure. I mean, it was a small town yet big for that time period. But you rode your horse. I was going to say drive, but you rode your horse in that desert to get to that town. And then when you left that town, you had to go 50 to 100 miles to the next town because, again, they were all spread out. They were all built, you know, in just little pieces back then. But another famous death associated with the Washoe Club is the murder of Julia Boulette, Bullette, a well-known prostitute who worked in Virginia City during the 1860s. Boulette was a popular figure in the town, and her murder in 1867 shocked the community. While Boulette was not killed inside the Washoe Club, it was a popular gathering place for her and her clients, and her death had a significant impact on the town's social and cultural life. So again, that's why I was asking you guys the questions. I tried to put more questions into my story to be more interactive, but that part right there goes to show that even though that Julia wasn't killed in the Washoe, again, she was a prostitute. You don't think she ever frequented the Gold Hill or the Silver Queen or, you know, any other place? It was a small town, but like I said, big for back in the day, but they all knew each other's name. They passed each other on the street every day. But yeah, I mean, I didn't see anything else about if they ever found who murdered her. But again, going back to Amanda and Vicky's stories about, you know, when we were talking about, do we think that prostitutes gravitate more towards the men that go and investigate there on ghost hunting investigations? Again, look at another prostitute. Now, Rosie was said to have maybe killed herself. Now, this, of course, said it was a murder, but again, we even talked about that the past 2 episodes. It could have been Rosie could have been a murder, but they made it look like a suicide. They probably slit her wrist afterwards, maybe choked her out. And, being in that they didn't have DNA and specific evidence techniques to gather evidence back in the day, we don't know for sure. Just like this prostitute, granted, I'm surprised they even said murder. I'm surprised they didn't say suicide, but there you go. There's some more correlation to all the other people that we've talked about so far.
Sarah, I think
Now let me
your theory there plays even more of a role, because the fact that she would have like potentially been murdered and had it look like a suicide, that would give anyone enough reason to want to like stay on this plane, like that would give someone a lot of trouble passing on, knowing that they're not at rest because nobody ever like caught their murderer. So I think your theory lends a hand to the fact that she's still.
Thank you. I mean, that's it. To me, it just makes sense, because I think when we talked I think it was last episode that we talked, where we kind of started feeling feeling a little bit more for the prostitute. I hate calling them that. Sex workers. I don't know. I would just say, let's call it lady of the night. That seems more respectful. But look how many thousands of minors to how many prostitutes, ladies of the night, were bound to fall in love. How could they not? The ratio of a single woman to a lot of minors that were single trying to make their way in life, it just seems right that they're gonna fall in love. Which brings me to one of the stories and legends associated with the hauntings of the Washoe Club. So I'm sure maybe you all have heard of this, but one of the most famous is the story of the Lady in Blue. According to legend, the Lady in Blue was a lady of the night who worked at the Washoe Club during the 1800s. She fell in love with one of the wealthy patrons of the club, but their love was forbidden and they were unable to be together. The Lady in Blue was said to have died of a broken heart, and her ghost has been seen wandering the halls of the club ever since. Now let's go back to Rosie and Julia, both ladies of the night. Granted, yes, there were a lot of minors, but there were also prominent businessmen that, let's be honest, wealthy businessmen, even though they're married, they play around. So it makes me wonder again, going back to the other girls that were murdered or, quote, committed suicide, they could have fallen in love the same thing with the wealthy patron, because I believe another story in the Washoe Club is of a lady that got pregnant
I was going to bring that up.
by one.
I wasn't sure if this was the
Yep.
same girl.
Nope, this is a different
Okay.
one.
Never mind then.
I don't know what her name was. They actually don't know for sure. They gave her a name at the Washoe Club, but I don't know what it is off the bat. But a girl got pregnant by someone that was wealthy, but it was a prominent person. I'm even wondering, don't quote me on this, but I'm thinking it was one of the 6 businessmen that founded the Washoe. Not Mackey, of course, but I think one of the other ones, because when I was reading the story and then I clicked on a couple different investigations when like a tour guide was telling them about it, it was someone very prominent in the town. It has to be one of the big named guys. But anyway, she got pregnant with his baby. He didn't want it. Didn't want even anyone to know that he was with her. So he chained her up to a radiator that was in one of the top floors of the Washoe Club, where nobody goes, of course, and sat there, starved her as she was pregnant until she gave birth. Then they think that she was either just died right there and he disposed of her somewhere. They don't know exactly for sure what happened to her body or exactly how she died. Was it malnourishment? Did she bleed out having the baby? But then also they wrapped up the baby and it is said that they dumped the baby down a mine shaft.
That is
Oh my
Horrible,
God.
horrible story.
Yeah. The other thing about that, I came across this while researching for my own topic and just kind of fell down the rabbit hole because of how like horrific it was. They said this woman, well, she loved the, prominent businessman, whoever he may be. They said that he supposedly loved her back. And when he found out that like she was pregnant, he asked her to abort the baby, which was obviously very dangerous at the time. She didn't want to because, of course, it was a child with the man that she loved. So he kept her up there and said, I'll let you go if you agree to abort the baby. And she never did. So I'm not sure if he had her murdered after the fact or what happened. Obviously, those details are very vague. But the whole thing came down to him trying to force her to
Here's
terminate
what
the
I don't
pregnancy.
get though. Here's what I don't get about that, Courtney. Why would you keep her to have the baby though? Why didn't you just kill her?
Right.
Because after 9 months, after 6 of the months, and she keeps saying no, why didn't you just get rid of her?
Exactly.
Like,
Unless
why
maybe
would
he
you
did.
make her have the baby and let her see her baby? And
Right.
then they carted out of the room and she's screaming and crying, has no energy. Could you just imagine? I mean, that was like the worst feeling probably in the world for
That
her.
sounds so
And think of the like malnourishment that came with that, like him keeping there for months on end without any sort of, I mean, obviously prenatal care wasn't back then what it is today. And even in the United States, it's not fantastic now, but it's just keeping somebody there without proper food, amenities where they can properly like care for themselves hygienically. Like the whole story is just so beyond like, for lack of a better word, fucked up. Like it's awful. And
Yeah.
I really think it comes down to maybe there was a part of him that was like, I don't want to lose you because we have a great time together, whatever that may be.
Mhm.
But he doesn't want the child and he doesn't want her to tell anybody that they were together in that way.
I was
Gosh,
gonna
if
ask a
that
question about that.
was a way, that was sick.
What was your question, Vicky?
That was
Sorry, it's just that I'm hearing about the whole thing, and obviously the guy gets pretty aggressive, like to the point that he chains this poor girl, he starves her. For 9 months she went without food. But given the fact that he, or at least the one you're talking about, like he gave her like this sort of ultimatum, like, hey, I'll let you live if you get rid of the baby. And on her end, was she romanticizing the, or like kind of fantasizing the idea, like if I keep the baby this long, he's gonna like eventually feel sorry for me, let me live, keep the baby, or oh no, he'll come to terms, he'll come to his senses, like I have his I'm with child, I have his child, like he's gonna undo what he did to me, and we're gonna go off into the world together, live happily ever after.
I think that is something that she was, I want to say, forgive me, the details are a bit like hazy for me now because it was a while ago when I stumbled across the story. But Farrah, I think that that's correct. Like she was holding on to a hope that maybe he reciprocated those feelings. And obviously he just wanted, for lack of better word, like a toy out of her. So he had no intentions of like even caring for this child, obviously.
Sad.
I just don't that the
Really
whole
sad.
story is just sick to me. You know what I
It
mean? It's
is.
just it's and so to me, again, I can't help but keep going back to all of these sex workers or ladies of the night that we've brought up so far and the ones, that we haven't talked about that we don't know of for sure of what happened. There were so many murders slash suicides of prostitutes in Virginia City. And it just makes me so angry to know that if you are going to the same lady of the night and you guys fall in love, why would it end that way? My God. I mean, so of course she's going to be going around the, Washoe Club looking for her baby and looking for whoever this man that she loved. I mean, I don't know. It's just,
It's heartbreaking.
it tore my heart out.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
heartbreaking,
definitely.
especially because he obviously didn't care for her in the same way. And
Yeah.
still
But
she
it's
was
a
like willing
baby.
to, yeah, I
Here's
don't
the thing. Even if she was alive after the baby was born and said, okay, um, it is what it is now. How could you ever want to even love someone that could murder a baby? Because
right.
that's what he did.
Your baby.
They murdered that baby.
He murdered
Right.
your child, like the child that you two had together.
Right.
Like you
So if
could
he did that
never,
to his own blood, he's going to do that to you.
right. And that's also like, how could you go on with that life? Like, I feel so awful for this woman and we don't even have her name.
I know. I wish I could find her name. Now, moving on to another one. So, another legend associated with the Washoe Club is the story of a Chinese man. According to this story, a Chinese man was murdered in the basement of the Washoe Club during the 1800s. His ghost is said to haunt the basement to this day, and visitors have reported feeling a presence and hearing strange noises when they venture down into the basement. So there's another one for you. Now, there is also one again. I think they call him Scotty. There is a room up in the Washoe Club that has a chair in it. And in that room, a man called Scotty had committed suicide because of his young son. His young son was out one day with one of his friends, and they were running around the town and the outskirts of it in the, desert field playing whatever. And the young son had fallen in a mine shaft and died immediately after the gentleman had heard. I mean, I'm sure it was a few hours. He was distraught, crying, all of that. He went upstairs to the Washoe Club and shot himself. So that was that one. There are a lot of, actually, another death is the suicide of a man named Jack Davis. Davis was a wealthy businessman who was a member of the club during the late 1800s. He was said to have been despondent over financial troubles and committed suicide by shooting himself in the head inside the club billiards room. Now, the fact it was the late 1800s and the whole financial distraughtness makes me think that he had owned shares in that, the downing of the Comstock. But like I said, there have been also reports of other deaths and tragedies associated with the Washoe Club over the years, including accidents, suicides, murders. While the exact details of some of these incidents are not well documented, as Courtney had said back then, didn't really have a way to, do the documents, keep them on file. They didn't really have a system back then. But, it has contributed to the club's reputation as a haunted location and have added to its mystique and allure for paranormal enthusiasts and ghost hunters. And let's see, over the years, numerous paranormal investigators have visited the Washoe Club to try to document evidence of its hauntings. Many have reported experiencing strange phenomena, including ghostly apparitions, unexplained temperature changes, and anomalous electromagnetic readings. Now, let me just throw out a couple investigations that I had watched on the Washoe. So now the first famous one, of course, is where Ghost Adventures kind of got their start, even though they went to the Goldfield Hotel where the brick was thrown. It was the Washoe Club in the upstairs room that they had caught a black apparition with a cowboy hat on. The X for the Ghost Adventures tape that when they first started, if you were a Ghost Adventures enthusiast like I was when they first came out, they would take black duct tape take two pieces of it and make an X to where their static cam night vision cameras would be placed. That X for that camera that caught that apparition is still there to this day. Now, another most recent one of Ghost Adventures, which I just thought was phenomenal if it wasn't faked, because, I mean, of course, it's a TV show. We're all skeptic about it. There's things that Ghost Adventures have done really well, but again, I'm still a skeptic. But the one that I'm talking about is their most recent and last visit to the Washoe Club. Now, mind you, this was about, I'm thinking 2 years ago or so, 3 years ago at this point. But it came after two of their friends named Mark and Debbie Constantino. Mark and Debbie Constantino had actually joined Ghost Adventures on some of their investigation trips because they were very famous at getting very good, clear, concise EVP recordings. But unfortunately, in I think it was 2014 or 2016, I'm not sure right off the top of my head, but Mark and Debbie Constantino died. It was said that there was some type of happening one day. The daughter of Mark and Debbie actually was said to have pulled Debbie out by her hair out of a car, drug her up to an apartment where there in turn lay her dad that was sitting there with a gun. I don't know what happened to the daughter. She must have left, or I don't know what she was doing during this time. It's speculation that maybe drugs were involved, but Mark was holding Debbie as hostage in the apartment. Cops were called, and whatever had ended up happening, the cops didn't bust in time. They were trying to negotiate for Mark to let Debbie go, but shots were then heard fired, and then one last shot. He had shot his own wife, Debbie, more than once, multiple times, and then he shot himself. Now, another couple speculation is that they were under maybe a demonic possession, because Mark and Debbie were kind of ones to follow the dark side a little bit. Plus, they've gone on so many investigations. You all know that it is possible for a dark entity to attach to you. So again, there's some crazy rumors out there. We'll never know because both of them are dead. But this led to Ghost Adventures going back to the Washoe Club, where they enjoyed Debbie and Mark had joined them a lot of times at the Washoe too. And they had set up a couple different devices. One of the devices was actually this device that would say words. It would say words. It would gather the readings from the air, like temperature, static, energy, all of that. And then it would spit out a word. Well, the Ghost Adventures crew were coming down the steps of the Washoe, inside the Washoe, going back down to, I think, the first or second floor. And all of a sudden, they hear something drop. And it's actually a quarter that had dropped out of nowhere. The guys didn't have pocket in their change, nothing like that. And actually, if you watch the camera angle, there's one or two of them that have already been down the steps. The other two are coming down following those two. And they're all down at the bottom of the steps by this point, and the quarter drops from above. They pick up the quarter, and it's actually the year that Debbie and Mark were deceased.
Stop.
I was
That
just
is
going to
so
ask
silly.
that.
Crazy.
Yeah. Now, what this proves, what they're trying to say is, because Debbie and Mark did so much investigating and they were really one with the paranormal, they know how to give clues. They would know how, if anybody would. If you pass on and there's a way for you to communicate, they would know how to do it. So that was the first thing that happened. Granted, they all stopped. The guys were emotional. They were emotional the whole investigation. I think Billy was even crying upstairs when he was doing an EVP recorder session to try to talk to them. But anyway, so they go into this next room where this device that I told you earlier is set up, where it takes the readings of the energy around you and spits out a word. All of a sudden, words start coming out like it's us, communicate, coin, as in quarter.
That is
And here,
so
I mean, and there
eerie.
were even more words. So it was blunt enough and just, you just couldn't help but know it was them. And they were communicating with them. It was fucking phenomenal if it wasn't set up. But I mean, their engineer guy, I've seen him. He builds their equipment. You can't mess with an equipment like that to spit out a word. It's right on camera. They always have a camera set on looking at the device so you can see how it works. And you would see fluctuations in temperature. You would see that there was like an energy coming because it would go up on the scale a little bit, and then boom, a word would come out. So it can only come out if there's a certain amount of energy or a field that it can read, and then that word comes out. But those words were communicate, coin, it's us, just so many things that these guys would know. And I just thought it honestly gave me chills. But another one recently, Twin Paranormal had gone out there. They've been there back since twice, but the first time they had gone there, they actually caught a very dark apparition in the same room where that cowboy was caught by Ghost Adventures. It wasn't in the room, it was more toward the what do you want to call it, doorway going into another room. But that was very cool. Now there is a room there at the Washoe Club called the Red Room, the Demon Room, where apparently someone that worked there had been able to take a picture of looking into this door that you can't open in the Red Room. It's just a door with a piece of glass, but it goes to nowhere. But they took a picture and there was like a demonic face in there. Yeah, but the things, you have to also remember is back in that day, there were a lot of, as we've learned, murder, suicide. There's a lot of negativity. Demons feed off negativity. That's where they get their energy because they love filling themselves up. They get off on that. So the Washoe Club, even though I'm one that I do not like when there are certain paranormal channels or paranormal investigators that constantly put a thumbnail up on their video or podcast or whatever it is about demon, demon, demon. Every place does not have a demon, but I will have to say, if there's any demon that's in anywhere in Virginia City, it would be the Washoe, because it has the most murders, the most suicides there, and just around it too. It just, the whole town has demons in it, I think. But they only, I think, they frequent just like the ladies of the night would. They probably go in the Gold Hill. They've been known to be demonic in the Mackey Mansion. Now a little bit about the museum. So first of all, the Washoe Club Museum and Saloon welcomes visitors year round, 7 days a week. Guided tours run from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. with tours typically starting on the hour and covering all 3 floors. As Virginia City most haunted attraction, please note, if you go there and do the tour, they tend to fill up quickly. So be sure to call ahead and make certain that your spot is reserved. Admission fees for the Washoe Club Museum are $8 for adults and $5 for visitors under 16. For those looking for a more immersive experience, overnight investigations are available for $400 per group, granting full access to all 3 floors, including the crypt, the spiral staircase as well. Now, let me just throw out there real quick about the $400 per group. This is what I want to remind anyone that's listening. When you are someone that watches these YouTube channels that paranormal investigate, and you decide to be a troll and be negative about you're late posting a video, or why didn't you do this, or why didn't you do that, or that's fake, or this and that, You need to remember you're watching that content for free. They don't need to cater to you. Look how much a place costs. $400 for the Washoe. I know that there's places up to $1,500 a night on some of these haunted locations that have become very famous. So these people are putting in their travel time, the money to travel, whether it's the gas, they don't live that far away, whether it's an airplane ticket, all the equipment that they have to buy to record, plus all the equipment they have to buy to ghost investigate, and then to pay for the overnight investigation, which most of them do. I mean, they don't go in there for an hour. You're either on a guided tour or you pay for the overnight. So please give these people a little break. I hate trolls, and I just have to. I don't know how you girls feel about it. I know
I
I'm
was
probably
just gonna add to that. Think about all of the money and investment that you spend building your channel. Like Twin Paranormal, I think we always talk about them. We must really enjoy their content, but
I do.
I do too. I will watch any video that they put out like the second they put it out, but that's beside the point. They recently just got like what 500,000 subscribers. They're not a very huge channel. I'm sure that sounds like a lot to a lot of us, but like it's not a very big channel, and they're spending their money, their travel, and on top of that, they are staying up all night to investigate these locations just so that we can watch their channel for free. That's
For
called
free.
passion. They're not, I mean, I'm sure there's some embellishment here and there, and no one's a bigger skeptic than I am, but think about it that way. Why would they, risk their reputation and their credibility just
Right.
for the shock factor?
Here's another thing that I learned the other day, which kind of made me mad. So there's a channel called Paranormies. I don't know if you've come
I know who
across
you're
it,
talking
Court,
about,
but
yeah.
okay, Jordan and Johnny, I think is their name. Yeah, Jordan and Johnny. Now, granted, when they started out, I was even one that was getting pissed at them because they would always come on and talk about their financial problems, you know what I mean? And that, that's why they couldn't go out and do a lot of investigations, because they didn't have the money and they weren't getting feedback from their Patreon for even $1. And recently they went and they built their own website. They had somebody build a website where they can put their content on that, because as you know, YouTube fucks up a lot of time with the algorithm. I know that just a couple months ago, Paranormal Files, I watched them too, with Colin and his dad, Jeff, sometimes. YouTube took down their whole channel because someone said that there was explicit sexual content in a video, and there wasn't. It was somebody that was either a troll or it was maybe another paranormal channel that got kind of jealous of, how good Colin was doing. But this is why Johnny and Jordan from Paranormies had built a website to not get, if they want to show something gory in their video because it's part of the story, they can do it. Because as you know, YouTube, you got to blur certain things. You can't say certain things. You can't say the word RAPE. You can't say SUICIDE. You can't say those words on there. So they want to get more free. I mean, it is their video. It is their content. They should be able to do that. Well, Johnny went online about a week or two ago and wrote this huge, novel responding to someone's comment who said, and this is what I'm getting at the point of the story, quote, "Why should we have to pay for your hobby?" That rubbed me the wrong way because, first of all, it was a lady, they're asking you to join their website if you want to. It's not saying that you have to. They will still put content on YouTube for free. But if you want to see longer episodes, say with like a lot of gory stuff in it or something like that, you're going to be able to see unretracted videos, right? But man, did that comment fucking get me livid, because I know now what it's like to produce content. I'm doing a podcast, plus I do so much videos on Instagram and TikTok to get my podcast out there. It takes a lot of time and a lot of work, not as much as the video side of it does, where what they do. But I wrote back to them and I said, for whoever wrote you that comment, we could ask her the same kind of question. Who are you that we have to give you free content?
The other thing that's kind
Not
of
agree?
worth mentioning here, that's the main thing that's rubbing me the wrong way about it, is like you're putting a, you know, relatively full-length video on YouTube, and then you're putting like an extended version, right? If I'm understanding correctly, on your website. Isn't that the same thing? Like if you have to pay for it, it's like if I did a bonus episode for Patreon, or if you did, or if any of us did, which is a very common thing. Like, isn't, in my mind, that's the same thing.
See, that's where I'm kind of stumped. Like, I just started my Patreon like 2 weeks ago, but I haven't advertised it yet because I'm like not there yet. I wanted to start it, but not advertise it, because I want to advertise it when I'm branching out onto YouTube. I'm getting my YouTube side podcast set up where I'm going to be doing video for YouTube. I don't know why I'm getting all into this, because I have hardly any fucking time anyway, but that's me. I'm always like thinking, creating. I'm just going to bore myself down. But anyway, it's like I feel like, yes, even though I've had a lot of downloads and I have a lot of people that are assigned up to my podcast, like as a follower, a subscriber, I'm like honestly scared to even advertise it, because I'm like, am I going to get what Johnny and Jordan do? Hell, if they get that on a video content where it's more engaging, it's not a podcast where you're just listening. You know what I mean? How am I going to justify that? You know, I feel like everybody's going to be bitching and going, well, you wanted to do this podcast, so why should I have to pay for it if I want to get some bonus episodes, or I want to get a free, like I'm going to do, bonus episodes. I'm doing the newsletters. I'm going to do t-shirts for members, all of that. They do get perks, but still, in this day and age, nothing is ever enough. Nothing's ever enough. And I just feel so bad for people like Twin, Colin with Paranormal, all of them. When you go through the comments, even a big channel like Overnight with Elton and all the Overnight guys, Corey and Corbin and all of them, they have millions of viewers, and Elton just wrote a thing a couple weeks ago responding to more negative comments. They're bitching about the fact that the most recent episodes were 2 episodes where they had fans join them at Waverly Hills. And people were bitching about it. They said, that's too many people. We don't like when there's guests on.
Isn't that like more cameras that can be held to catch evidence? It just bothers me, because I think there's a healthy dose of skepticism that we should all have, especially as people who research in this field. But there's also a level of respect that you should have for fellow creators, especially ones who are like out there doing the damn thing,
That's what I mean. And that's, I'm so thankful that I've had the people that I have, following me every week and listening, and you guys too, you're all doing well too. But it comes a time when we're going to get that negativity, and I'm not looking forward to it. But I just don't understand what people think they're supposed to get for free. Why are you even arguing about someone else's video? It's free.
I think we're just in this mindset, like where we are as like, I don't even know, like I don't want to say a society, but just like as a species, where we're in this age of people don't understand. Just if it's not for you, that's okay. Like we're not trying to shove anything in anyone's face. Just scroll by. But there is a market for all this stuff. And there is people like me and, all of us who are going to want to tune into your YouTube or to, purchase merchandise for your brand. And there's people out there who are going to want that. So if it isn't your thing, that's cool, man. But just keep scrolling. Find something that is your thing. Don't, trying to spread negativity and shitting on someone's dreams, sorry for the French. But, that's not what we're trying to spread here. And that's opposite. Like, if it's not for you, that's cool. Just keep.
Exactly. And that's what I love about Virginia City is you have, like I said, the way that they have kept these buildings alive. But what makes me upset is when investigators do go there and they say every place is demonic. These people had lives. Man, this country was built on the backs of those people. The miners, the buildings are there that has created such a great little city that it's a little tourist attraction. You know what I mean? And I just think that Virginia City, that's why I wanted to do these chronicles and pick out these, buildings to get more. We've seen video of it. Let's talk about it because they're such great buildings. They're such a great historic little staple in that town. I would love to visit Virginia City with you girls. Like, it should be something that since we do this and we collab together, we should make a trip where we go there because that would be like fucking phenomenal.
Dude,
I would love to do that with
I'm
you.
literally down anytime. The only airline that is cheap in this area is Allegiant, and I can get to at least Las Vegas for like $60. So just let me know.
It's not going to be that cheap, but I'm still down.
No, it's a sketchy airline. So don't come
Wow.
for me, Allegiant Airline, if you're listening. I don't know why you would be, but
We definitely need to talk about that. It's a for sure. We need to have a Skype chat about it and see what we can do.
For sure.
maybe we can have a live stream
and-
from somewhere haunted. Ooh, stay tuned.
Ooh,
That would be fun.
yes, David. We will visit you in Florida too.
I'm in Florida.
Oh no, he's a Texan.
We don't need Florida. We just need you, David, because you're the sunshine in all of
There
our
you
lives.
go. Yeah, that's right. He is in Texas.
So, ending there, you have it. A brief overview of the history and hauntings of the Washoe Club in Virginia City, Nevada. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of our podcast, and we encourage you to do your own research and visit the Washoe Club for yourself. And don't forget, if you do, share your ghost stories with us and your experiences on social media using the hashtag Washoe Club. And of course, go on to our Instagram, post some pictures for us to see you there. We'd love to hear people's stories about the Washoe. Now, next Tuesday, Courtney is actually going to be doing her subject, which is the infamous Mackey Mansion, which of course is another big staple there in Virginia City. I can't wait to hear that from you, Courtney. I'm sure you will do a phenomenal job, as everyone else does on this show. But a couple other things to remember: Amanda, Vicky, get together on your joint one for the last episode after Courtney's, which you guys are collaborating on the last episode for the mitzvah, and me and Courtney are doing the clown motel.
Heck
So
yeah.
I would kind of put it for you guys. We'll probably do like an hour and a half total. So then you guys working amongst yourself for each of you to do like a 15-20 minute segment. Same with me and Courtney. 15-20 minutes for her on the clown, 15-20 minutes for me on what I found on the clown. So, definitely talk to each other so you're not, of course, repeating any info, but also want to let the listeners know that next episode is not the last episode. It'll be the following Tuesday when we collab on those two last places. And then we will be announcing the last episode, what our next series will be, which I think you will love it as well. And again, for anyone new that's listening, I'll start with Vicky. Vicky, put your handles out there where you can be found, and then go Amanda, Courtney, and I'll end. Go ahead.
Hey guys, so to look for me, please go to Instagram and TikTok as at Mrs. Spooky Obsessed. And if you're interested to look into my podcast, please search it up as at Mrs. Spooky Obsessed Podcast in order to get in order to look into my content, my share on the history of all things spooky and scary as part of our.
Thank you, Vicky. Amanda, you're next.
Alrighty, so you can find my stuff anywhere, One Nothing Podcast. Our host site is onenothing.buzzsprout.com. And then we have Instagram and TikTok at One Nothing Podcast. We post a lot more on the Instagram side than the TikTok side. I have some really cool stuff coming out in a few weeks that I'm like bursting at the seams to try to contain, and it's really, really hard. So keep staying tuned to Instagram to see little hints that I'm going to drop along the way.
And you have been doing great on your podcast, Amanda. I've really been enjoying your latest episodes. You're doing a great job with your videos on Instagram, getting yourself out there. I just wanted to take a moment and let you know that, because from day one, when I remember, and that's what I love about all of us, we literally all just started like the same week, or like Courtney was 1 week into hers when I started mine, and then Amanda and Vicky. So I think it's really cool that we're watching each other grow as we have. But yeah, I just wanted to pop in there real quick, Amanda, and tell you your episodes have been bomb.
I really appreciate it, and I learned from you. I just want to say.
Hey, whatever I can do, you took. I'm glad, because you've done a great job. All right, Courtney, sorry, go ahead.
You're fine. And Amanda, well, really all of us, I feel like our promo game has been really stepping up recently. I don't know about y'all, but I think that it has.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, phenomenal job, all of you. It's really fun to be a part of this group, because we've been watching each other grow over the last, 4 months. And just every time that I see y'all's like analytics on Instagram or anything like that, it just makes me so happy, because we started and we had like 3 listeners, 3 downloads, and now we're like here with this amazing channel that we've put together, and it's just so great to be a part of. But anyways, I'm going on a tangent. You can find me on Instagram at HauntsCast. The name of the podcast is obviously Haunts Podcast, and we talk about spooky stories with a touch of skepticism. I like to look into stories that are they have, I guess, like, I don't want to say that there's like fraudulent stories out there, but I like looking at stories from all angles. So I have a couple coming out in the next few weeks that really dive into that. So I'm very excited. So if you want to follow me over on Instagram, like I said, it's Haunts Podcast, or you can just subscribe directly on Apple Podcast or Spotify or any of the major platforms.
Awesome. And of course, you all know where you can find me here at the Conversation Cabin podcast. Available Spotify, Apple, Audible, Animal Music, goodness, wherever you probably listen to. A couple other things real quick on my side. Join, be a cabin crew member. It's free. You'll get email updates, newsletter with a scary story. I've got enough people where I'm ready to get it out, because at first it was one here, one there. Now I got a lot. So now I'm going to put the newsletter out. So thank you for hanging in there. I just wanted to make it, worth the while to do that and have another thing on my plate every week, every month. But go to my website, which is my For Now website. I'm actually in the process of making my Wix website for the Conversation Cabin podcast. But for now, go to https://theconversationcabin.podbean.com. And there at the top, you'll see cabin crew member. Click on that, fill out the information, and you are then subscribed as a cabin crew member. Woo! And it's free. I will be advertising my Patreon soon, just not yet. But other than that, you can also find me on Instagram, TikTok at The Conversation Cabin. I also wanted to give a couple shout outs. First of all, If you have not gotten the book, The Night Visitants, by one of our guests that Courtney had joined me on for a nice story and interview talk with her, Anna Maria Manalo, The Night Visitants. She is an award-winning screenwriter and author of The Paranormal Everything Strange. She writes her own memoirs of the paranormal, which I highly suggest you go back. Courtney, wasn't that a great fucking
I
story? Like,
I
I'm talking
cannot
with
like
her.
express how fun that was. I actually messaged her a couple weeks ago because she liked one of my pictures on Instagram, and I was like, we need to, like, all of us need to sit down with her again, because like she just has so many stories to share that I like. Her books are phenomenal, but getting the like background information and like the kind of inside scoop on how she wrote those stories and how they came to be her insights are amazing. So for sure, go check that out. I believe it's live on Farrah's podcast. And if you have like her books anywhere, like they're all on, I want to say, Amazon.
Yes,
And
they're
you can
all on
also get them
Amazon.
on Kindle.
Yep. And she's a great writer. I mean, my God, she I think some of her books were Portal. Oh, The Way Through the Woods, which is I got all of her books now, but I haven't read. That's the first one I'm gonna read. The Way Through the Woods. But yeah, go get her book on Amazon. It's called The Night Visitants. Anna Maria Manalo. And then real quick, you girls don't have to say no if you don't want to. I'm just doing some quick shout outs, but I want to do some quick shout outs. First of all, David from Down the Rabbit Hole on Instagram. Go and visit he has some unbelievable content. If you like scary, spooky, high strangeness, do not go to any other channel than his. He just puts up great videos, great pictures, great little stories about them. David has joined us tonight too for our podcast, and I want to thank him so much for being a great supporter of all of us, Vicky, Amanda, Courtney, myself. Thank you so much, David. You have no idea how much it means to all of us. Also want to give a shout out to Jimmy at Spooky Appalachia. He wasn't able to join us tonight, as he always does, so he gets a free pass this time because he's my buddy. And of course, Anna Maria herself. Anna, I love you. I can't wait for our talk tomorrow. And yes, we will get a date set up where me, Anna, and Courtney does another dig in. Oh, actually, Courtney, she's putting out another book this fall.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
Yeah. So also, Jen and Mondo from 305 Paranormal. Jen, I can't wait to talk to you. Kevin, our friend from Where the Weird Ones Are. Dude, if you have not checked out his podcast, he brings on some people that got some great spooky stories. And he also goes over conspiracy theories, which I'll be getting to my first conspiracy theory next week. Stay tuned on Instagram for what that will be. And let's see who else. I got Void Between Worlds, Astute Paranormal. Those are the two paranormal investigation groups that I had interviewed on my show. So please go check them out on their respective Instagram as well. Also, let's see, Ghost Vexers, Paranormal, AJ. I can't wait to talk to you more about Virginia City and everywhere you've been and investigate. I can't wait to speak with you soon. Mike Vieira, that is new on my Instagram. Also, Fractured Paranormal. Amanda, you actually referred him to me, and thank you very
He
much.
was
I'm actually
so
going to be speaking with him tomorrow. What's that?
that just was awesome that he was able to connect with you, because I was like, oh my gosh, how perfect would you be with, with Farrah and her ingenuity and creativity. And I'm so glad he came back raving about you.
Oh, awesome. Yep, I'll actually talk to him tomorrow. It'll be Wednesday for me, Thursday for him. That's how much the time difference is. So we had to really work to get a schedule worked out that worked for both of us. But other than that, too, Handcuff and Headsets. Please go give their podcast a listen. I like this podcast because it's a point of view from a sheriff deputy and a dispatcher. They're together and they put out these podcasts where they're talking about their point of view on a case. And I think it's really intriguing. Go listen to it. Twisted Chamber as well. Spooky Sips podcast. And I mean, so many more on our Instagram. I'm so thankful to have all of you guys for listeners. My girls, Vicky, Amanda, Courtney, I love you guys so much. And I thank you for joining me on this journey. You guys have helped me a lot. You guys helped me grow when I started podcasting, and just your support made me feel I could always do this, do it my way. Who cares how many people don't listen or do? I have creativity. I've wanted to get it out. This is where I'm doing it. I'm so happy. And thank you very much for your support. I love you guys.
I love you guys.
Well, until next time, cabin crew and listeners, girls, you can join me in this one. 1, 2, 3.
Explore
Your
your
strange.